Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, trust me when I tell you this. Potentially one of the most important shows I have ever done in the history of the Kuhner Report. So buckle up, my friends. Okay, today is voting day in Wisconsin. There's also special elections being held in Florida, but without question, the race now for the election of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is now turning into the most important election of 2025. And before you turn the dial and say, Jeff, this is Wisconsin, a Supreme Court election? Are you kidding me? What does this have to do with me in my car as I'm sitting in my car or in my home or whatever it is, taking a shower, whatever you're doing now, getting ready to get to work or to get on with your day? It is not just about the majority on the Supreme Court. This is a race between a conservative judge, Brad Schimmel, and a liberal judge, Susan Crawford. And what's at stake is much more profound and fundamental than whether the court will remain 4-3 liberal or flip to conservative control 4-3. Yes, it has massive ramifications for Wisconsin itself. Many issues like abortion, public sector unions, all of these issues now are going to be litigated, and they have a lot of rulings coming up in Wisconsin. This, however, is going to have massive national implications. Why? Because the Democrats have made it crystal clear. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries, in an interview, promised his supporters that this election is the election that will be the silver bullet that stops Donald Trump's legislative agenda and his presidency dead in its tracks. And I have to give George Soros, I have to give the devil his due on this. What Soros is very good at is identifying races that most people don't even think twice about. Thinking, well, this is a local race for a seat on the Supreme Court. What the hell, in Wisconsin, the Badger State? What the hell does this have to do with me? And he came in early. He put $1 million into Susan Crawford's campaign when nobody was paying attention. And then his network began to generate tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars in extra campaign funding. She has been waging now a nonstop campaign through the air, on radio, on the ground. Conservatives now, led by Elon Musk. Elon put $3 million of his own money and then got Republicans to pony up another $16 million to try to counter now this onslaught by Soros and the radical left. The question now is, have they done enough in time to prevent what could be a disaster for Trump, the Republicans, and ultimately the country? So why, Jeff, why did Soros go all in? Why is Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats all in on a race over the Supreme Court in Wisconsin? Because Susan Crawford, the liberal judge and the liberal candidate, has now said openly, she admits it, there is an important case coming up in which redistricting will be at stake. The layout, the apportionment of the congressional map. And as you know, Wisconsin is a purple state. It is practically 50-50. And yet Republicans have, there's 8 congressional seats. Republicans have 6 congressional seats. The Democrats have 2 congressional seats. The Democrats now have a case in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which they will rule on later this year. in which they want to gerrymander or redistrict the congressional map of Wisconsin, in which eventually, by gerrymandering things through Milwaukee and through Madison, Wisconsin, which are these big blue Democrat strongholds, the Democrats will gain 2 seats. The Republicans will lose 2 seats. They will redistrict Wisconsin, and it will no longer be 6-2 Republican. It will be 4 Democrat, 4 Republican. The Democrats will gain 2 seats. The Republicans will lose 2 seats. Again, you may be sitting in your car or at home or in the shower and saying, okay, Jeff. So the Republicans in the House of Representatives lose 2 seats. The Democrats gain 2 seats. How is this the end of the world, Jeff? Why is this such an important story, Jeff? 2 seats is the margin of error. The Republicans have a razor-thin majority. Razor-thin. 2 seats, and the Democrats are literally on the cusp of taking back control of the House. Now, Susan Crawford has openly said, if I win, I will vote to redistrict the congressional map. We will knock off 2 Republican seats. We will give the Democrats 2 extra seats, and this will flip 2 seats from the Republican column to the Democrat column. And she, along with Soros and Hakeem Jeffries, are now telling Democrats, if we get these 2 seats, and we will, in the 2026 midterm elections, we will take back the House of Representatives. And when we do, Donald Trump's presidency will be blocked. We are going to defund him. Hakeem Jeffries has already said they're going to wage impeachment after impeachment after impeachment. In effect, Trump will be fighting for his very political life. And so the people of Wisconsin today are not just voting on a judge. They're not just voting on their state Supreme Court. They are literally voting on an election that will have profound congressional and national ramifications. And we're going to now see if this late money poured in by Elon, and I want to give Elon a tremendous amount of credit, because this wasn't the RNC. Where the hell the RNC has been, I don't know. But this was Elon, who recognized the danger, recognized the threat, and not only has he kicked in $3 million of his own money, and not only has he gotten other wealthy Republicans to pour another $16 million to give Brad Schimmel now a fighting chance. And polls, by the way, now show the race is going to be neck and neck. It is a photo finish. Elon has taken his own time to fly down to Wisconsin, to Green Bay, to Milwaukee, to other parts around Wisconsin, to rally Republicans, to rally conservatives, to rally MAGA Trump supporters, to try to warn them that this election is not just a local election for the Supreme Court. The fate of Trump's agenda and the fate of Trump's presidency in many ways now hangs in the balance. The left is going berserk because they thought that Republicans asleep at the switch, with Soros and his people pouring in all of this money, that they could win this under the radar, steal the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and then take away 2 seats from the Republicans in the House of Representatives and basically stop Trump dead in his tracks. Elon now is the reason why Brad Schimmel and conservatives may actually win in Wisconsin. So the left now is alleging, listen to this, Elon has done these rallies in Wisconsin in which he holds a raffle, a $1 million raffle. You attend, 10, 20, 30,000 people show up at his rallies, and you get a chance to win $1 million. You put your name, you put your address, they put it in a little box or whatever it is, and, you know, they turn it a little bit, they mix up all the names on the cards, and then randomly someone's name is picked, and several times someone has won $1 million, and Elon cuts him a check. The Democrats are trying to claim that this is voter fraud, that this is bribing people to vote, that this violates election laws and campaign finance laws. Wisconsin courts have shot every single one of them down, saying absolutely not. Okay, so many of you are probably asking, Jeff, why is this one of the most important shows you've ever done? I mean, yes, of course, the stakes are high in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election today between Brad Schimmel, the conservative, versus the uber moonbat, Susan Crawford. Trump's agenda is at stake. The control of Congress is ultimately at stake because of redistricting and what the left wants to do. 2 points. And then I want to open it up to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Point number one. What Hakeem Jeffries admitted, he let the cat out of the bag when he spoke to fellow Democrats in the House, where he told them, bide your time. We're going to take back the House. I will be House Speaker in 2026 after the midterms because of this election in Wisconsin. They believe they've poured in enough money, that George Soros has activated, and Reid Hoffman, by the way, a very prominent left-wing billionaire, very close to Hillary Clinton, that both Reid Hoffman and George Soros have poured so much money. And by the way, they have now collectively, both sides have spent $100 million on a race for one seat on the state Supreme Court. It is by far the most expensive Supreme Court race, not just in the history of Wisconsin, in the history of the country. So all that money pouring in, you realize the stakes are very high. And Hakeem Jeffries said, she's going to win, Susan Crawford. She's going to vote on redistricting, which is going to change the congressional map. And we are going to get 2 extra seats. They're going to gerrymander these districts, redraw them in plain English, in which Republicans will lose 2 seats and we will gain 2 seats. And that alone will make me speaker. And once I'm speaker, he then told them, we impeach, impeach, impeach. We do 1 impeachment, and when that fails, we do a 2nd impeachment, and then a 3rd impeachment, and then a 4th impeachment. All they're going to do is impeach Donald Trump for the last 2 years of his presidency. They'll defund everything. They will investigate everything. That's why the stakes are so high. And what Jeffries admitted, as I said, he let the cat out of the proverbial bag, is he said, we're going to do through the judiciary what we are unable to do at the ballot box. Meaning, they keep losing elections because they can't win on transgenderism. They can't win on males competing in female sports. They can't win on defunding the police. They can't win on open borders and amnesty for 15 to 20 to 30 million illegals. They can't win on the Green New Deal. So they can't win on basically the key issues that animates and drives the Democratic Party. They can't win on socialism and communism and globalism. But we use the judiciary, we manipulate the legal system to get around the will of the people, to get around democracy. And so they use the courts in order to implement their radical leftist agenda as a way to circumvent the fact that they can't convince a majority of voters to vote for them. And this is where we are now with the left. They are blocking Trump everywhere using district judges. Now they're trying to overtake and seize the Wisconsin Supreme Court to not just change Wisconsin and make it blue, but literally to stop and derail Trump's agenda in Congress. So that's numero uno. That's why this is such an important discussion, because this goes to the heart now of what the left has become. They now have adopted judicial tyranny as their model, as their basis for overturning and subverting the will of the people. But now there's a second dimension, and I touched on it yesterday, late in yesterday's show. I discussed it on X last night, and we are going to be talking about it today. This is going to blow your mind. Elon Musk, while campaigning in Wisconsin on this very election, laid out charts, mind-blowing charts, in which he released an absolute bombshell. They now have proven definitively, and I'm going to get to all the details, definitively, that Joe Biden and the Democrats gave Social Security numbers, fraudulent Social Security numbers, to 5.5 million illegal aliens. And then they registered them to vote. And they caught them actually voting. He was at a rally in Green Bay for this particular race, and then said, by the way, just so that all of you know, we just kind of stumbled into this. We were looking for fraud in the Social Security Administration, and you're not going to believe what we found. We found that the Biden regime deliberately, there's no question, not only flooded our country with illegals. This wasn't an accident. He wasn't just asleep at the switch. No. They flooded the country with illegals and then provided them with fraudulent Social Security numbers, not only so that they could receive Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security checks, food stamps, all of that, which is illegal, but they registered them to vote. By giving them these fake Social Security numbers, they then registered them to vote. 5 million illegals and counting that they've caught. They have the receipts. And then they pulled their voter registration records. And millions of them did vote. Did vote. Now, you've known about voter fraud. I've known about voter fraud. Trump has talked about voter fraud. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Susan Crawford now, the far left judge that is running now for the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, the darling of the left, is now claiming that, believe it or not, listen to this, that Elon Musk is trying to buy a seat on Wisconsin's Supreme Court. And the media is obviously running with this spin because they desperately want Crawford to win, because they realize if she wins, she's going to vote to redistrict and gerrymander the congressional map of Wisconsin. And it's currently now 6 Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives. They have 6 seats. Democrats have 2 seats. They realize by the time they're done redistricting, it will be 4-4. Democrats will gain 2, Republicans will lose 2, and they believe that's going to put them over the top in 2026 in the midterms to knock out Mike Johnson and the Republicans and put Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats back in the majority. And then Trump will have a war, a political war on his hands. So suddenly now they're trying to paint Elon as the villain. And notice, nobody in the media mentions that George Soros is trying to buy the seat. That Elon was literally just responding to all of the money that Soros had initially launched into the campaign before anybody was even paying any attention. I mean, it's just unbelievable the way they lie, twist, distort, and manipulate. So let me ask all of you, really, two questions. Number one, what do you make of the fact now that the left, not just here in America, you see it all over Europe, all over the world, now are weaponizing the judiciary and the legal system, manipulating it to kneecap and take out their political opponents, using it deliberately to do an end run, to circumvent the voters, the will of the people. Take Marine Le Pen in France. They arrested her and now have indicted her and convicted her on literally bogus, made-up charges because she's the front runner. She will win in the next election in France. There's no question now. She's way ahead in the polls. They want a populist conservative running France. They're tired of the open borders, the unlimited third world immigration. They're tired of the outsourcing of all their jobs and their sovereignty, very much like here in the United States. Well, now they just put her in jail. Bolsonaro in Brazil put him in jail, or they're trying to. In Romania, ditto, same thing to the populist conservative there. You could run down country after country after country. They've done it in Pakistan. They've done it in places where it's not just in Europe. They're doing it everywhere. This is their answer to everything. Use the courts, use the judiciary to jail their political opponents or to ram through their radical left agenda. You're right, Sandy. They're creating Nelson Mandelas. They're creating martyrs. That's what they're really doing. They don't realize it, but that's what they're doing. And then the second question, in other words, who's the real threat to democracy? You know, conservatives say, let the voters decide. Liberals say, let the judges decide. So are we now entering an era of judicial tyranny? Second question. Elon Musk. Was it wrong or inappropriate for him to be using his wealth, $1 million here, $1 million there, to be holding raffles, to give away $1 million checks if people signed up and attended the rallies that he was leading and spearheading in Wisconsin? The left is up in arms over this, saying that this is tantamount to voter bribery, to bribing voters. Now, courts in Wisconsin have ruled on it multiple occasions that it wasn't. It was clearly within the law. He wasn't paying people saying, here's money, go and vote, or here's money and come to my rally. It was, you show up, you're going to get your name, address, whatever, put in a box, in a raffle, and, you know, we're going to spin and we'll see what we pull out. And if your name happens to be pulled out, it's like winning the lottery. You just won $1 million. 99.999999999% of people who showed up didn't win anything. That's number one. Number two, Hillary Clinton was literally giving people cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes to show up at her rallies. For example, in 2016, the left had no problem with that. George Soros is literally paying activists, not just to torch Teslas and Tesla dealerships and engage in political terrorism, but to campaign and show up at rallies for, say, in this case, Susan Crawford in Wisconsin. So let me get this straight. Soros can be paying activists $40, $60, some cases $100 an hour to show up at rallies or to protest on her behalf or to campaign on her behalf. And that's okay. But Elon, in his funny comedic way, holds a dramatic raffle for a $1 million check, and all of a sudden, he's bribing voters? He's the one that's violating campaign finance laws? So, my question to you, do you think it's inappropriate for Elon to have held these $1 million raffles during this race for the Supreme Court, which, by the way, polls open at 7 o'clock Central Time? So basically in about, an hour and 20 minutes. And we should know the result by the end of tonight. 617-266-6868. Dane in South Dakota. You're going to kick us off, Dane. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, breaking news. Judge Lucifer Crawford has won the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. April Fools. Yeah. We love Elon Musk in a non-sexual way. Thank God for this man and for what he's doing for the country. Jeff, I'll tell you, this is the most important election since nominating President Trump. Listen, this is no cheesy subject, no pun intended. I'll tell you something. This election will determine who's in control for the next 2 years of this country. President Trump's new golden age of enlightenment for the country, or is this the deep state, satanic communist Democrats and the evil propaganda media? That's how important this election is. It's going to determine one of those two. And in closing, Jeff, this is like getting Judge King Solomon and having the knowledge and judgment not to cut the baby in half, or we will get Judge Lucifer Crawford destroying this nation. It's up to Wisconsin to bring Brad Schimmel to this time tomorrow when you're talking on your radio. Hallelujah. They elected Judge Brad Schimmel.
From your lips to God's ears, I really hope voters in Wisconsin wake up and realize really what's at stake. And, I got to say, Dane, what's really disgusting is, Trump is doing so much good for the country. It's undeniable. And look what the Democrats propose. It's oppose, 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 block, 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 subvert, subvert, subvert. They don't want him to succeed because, let's be honest, they fear that he will be successful. Okay, you may not know it, but today in some parts of the country is Election Day. All eyes are on Wisconsin. Huge race for the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, between the conservative Brad Schimmel, who I'm hoping wins. In fact, I'm practically praying that he wins, and Susan Crawford, who is clearly a cat's paw, a proxy of George Soros, the radical left. Hakeem Jeffries, they want her to win. She is vowing that she will rule on a redistricting case upcoming that will literally make sure that Democrats gain 2 seats in the House of Representatives and that the Republicans will lose 2 seats. It's currently, there's 8 seats that Wisconsin has in terms of their congressional delegation that they send to the House, to Congress. 6 are held by Republicans, 2 are held by Democrats. They are going to redistrict and redraw these the congressional map in the Badger State, guaranteeing 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. 2 seats will go to the Democrats, 2 seats the Republicans will lose, and Hakeem Jeffries is privately already gloating, saying, "Call me Mr. Speaker." That's the 2 seats we need to overcome the Republicans' razor-thin majority. And Hakeem is already now saying, the first thing I do, I impeach. So the Democrats, Trump hasn't even finished his 100 days yet. And they're already plotting to completely destroy his presidency and to impeach him. By the way, they don't even know what they're going to impeach him on. They're already saying whatever, we'll make up the reason. but it'll be one impeachment and then a second impeachment and then a third impeachment. They'll impeach for the last half to 2 years, the last 2 years of Trump's administration. So, forget even, remember there used to be 100 days, like a honeymoon period? At least give the other guy a chance to show what he can do. Not with these Democrats. It's all about power. They lost it and they want it back. And if it means destroying the country in the process, they don't care. Derek in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you,
I see nothing illegal with Elon Musk. I mean, if he's holding a raffle, and giving anyone $1 million to, to get people to vote. My question, I have two questions. The first question is, how is it that, even if let's just play this thing out and say this judge does get elected, they win 2 congressional seats, and the Democrats have 4, the Republicans have 4. I thought, how is it that this judge can do redistricting? I mean, I thought that was felt to the legislature to do redistricting when it came down to these congressional races. And the second thing is, these Democrats talk about buying votes. Remember 5 years ago in 2020 when Biden was running against Trump in Arizona? Remember that they were trying to buy votes, giving out gift cards and iPads and stuff to bribe people to vote in Arizona?
Oh, you're completely right. Derek, I even forgot about that. You're completely right. They were giving out gift cards to restaurants. They were giving out phones, laptops. Say, here, register and vote. And, here's a free laptop. Here's a $50 Applebee's gift card or whatever the restaurant was. And no problem. The Dems loved it. They loved it. They were cheering it on. In fact, look, this is not even my point. This is from Larry. He messaged me, and I want to run this by you, Derek. Larry wrote me just a couple minutes ago saying, Jeff, how is it any different than Kamala Harris offering free concerts with Beyonce or Megan Thee Stallion? Do you remember that during the 2024 campaign? Jay-Z, Beyonce, Megan Thee Stallion, they were giving free concerts to people in Atlanta and places all over the country, saying, show up and she'll sing for an hour and then I'll come on stage and hold a political rally. So how is that any different? I mean, notice, Derek, one set of rules for them and another set of rules for Republicans or conservatives. Have you noticed that, Derek?
I've noticed that a lot. I just want to mention, Jeff, I mean, I thought the legislature can only do redistricting when it, comes out to congressional races. I mean, this judge in the Supreme Court, if she does this, can't they throw it up to the U.S. Supreme Court, or are they too lazy and scared to do anything about it, and they'll just throw it back down to the lower court and say, well, hey, you figure it out. We don't want to get involved.
Well, Derek, look, that's why I circle back to my opening monologue. It's a brilliant question. Okay, absolutely brilliant question. And I circle back and I go, look, this is really one of the most important shows I've ever done because I'm addressing judicial tyranny and I'm going to be addressing now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, we have voter fraud. I mean, you've known it. I've known it. We've all know it. But now we've got the receipts. The receipts. We've got them. Elon did it. His team did it. That wasn't their intention. I'm going to get to this maybe in about 10, 15 minutes. But he goes, look, we weren't planning on doing this, on finding this out, but we just accidentally stumbled upon it, and we are shocked at what we found. So let's do the judicial tyranny part first, because you're dead on. It's state legislatures that do redistricting every 10 years, as you know. Okay, probably better than most people. So why is the state Supreme Court now usurping the power of the legislature? That's what these liberal courts are now doing on local matters, state matters, and national matters. This is now the phenomenon of our time. These activist judges that are literally stealing power, usurping power, whether it be from Trump, the executive, or the legislative branch, like in this case, the state legislature in Wisconsin. And to show you how devious and diabolical and coordinated this is, Soros funded the redistricting effort. And so they put this issue in front of the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And they made sure that it was going to be taken up by the court right after this election. Right after this election. So what they did was, it was almost like they coordinated with Pelosi, with Jeffries, with Schumer, with Act Blue, with the grand poobahs of the Democratic Party, including obviously Soros. And they said, okay, here's how we're going to steal this thing from Trump. We're going to put an initiative that we need to redistrict Wisconsin because they're claiming it's not fair. This is their argument, that Wisconsin is a 50-50 state. And so why is it that the congressional delegation is 6 Republican, 2 Democrat? And so they're claiming that it's because minorities are being disenfranchised. Milwaukee's not being properly represented. Madison is not being properly represented. Some of the bigger urban areas are not being properly represented. And so this is a case of discrimination. And so they filed this case in front of the state Supreme Court. And the state Supreme Court said, yes, we're going to rule on it. We're going to override the state legislature. All you got to do now is get our gal, Susan Crawford, in. You put her in. We're going to have a 4-3 majority on the Supreme Court. And by the way, I can play you the cut. I don't want to bore everybody, waste your time. Susan Crawford has said, oh, yeah, you better believe it. I'm voting for redistricting. A vote for me is a vote for redistricting. Now, the Republicans in Wisconsin, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, they control the state Senate. 18-15. They control the state house, 54-45. So the Republicans have a majority in both the house, the state house now, the state house and the state Senate. And basically the libs, the communists, I don't know what else you want to call them, the hard left on the Supreme Court are basically giving the middle finger to the state legislature and to the voters, saying, we don't care if you keep voting Republicans in at the state legislature. We don't care what you, the people, want. You keep, reelecting these Republicans in these 6 districts. No, blank you. We're going to override the state legislature, override the will of the people. We're going to redistrict the state on our own, and it's going to go from 6 to 4 Republican and 2 to 4 for the Democrats. It's naked judicial activism. It's clearly, to me, illegal and unconstitutional. It's a power grab. It's judicial tyranny. Remember, they wanted the judiciary to put Trump in jail. They wanted judges, like that guy Merchan up in New York, to put Trump in jail so he couldn't be a candidate for president of the United States. They're now literally ordering the American people, right? They're directing the American people they're deciding who you can and who you can't vote for. They're now doing it in Brazil. Bolsonaro is about to go to jail over nothing. Le Pen, they just convicted her. They just convicted her on nothing. Literally. If you want me to get into the details, I can. I'm telling you, it's such a bogus BS case. It's beyond disgusting. They're doing it in Romania. In Romania, they're literally canceling presidential elections. They're just saying, no, the conservative is going to win. No, you're not going to vote. That's it. Too bad. No, sorry. And then they ban him from running. And then they say, well, we're banning him because we're jailing him. And they're jailing them because they're making the charges up. So this is the mortal threat now that we face. So A, we have to win this race in Wisconsin, and B, the Congress, the Republicans in Congress have to get off their rear ends. I don't know what these people do all day, Derek. That's what do they do up there on Capitol Hill? They need to pass a law now that limits the authority and jurisdiction of these district court judges. They don't have the authority in the Constitution, nowhere, to issue these injunctions that affect the entire country. And in Wisconsin, the state legislature now has to come out and say, you don't handle redistricting, we handle redistricting. Pass a law that limits the power of the state Supreme Court. You have to defend your constitutionally delineated authority and power. But again, these Republicans, yellow-livered, gutless, spineless, never stand up to these judges who now think essentially they're presidents. They think they're mini dictators. And France is now plunged in a crisis. The presidential candidate that was going to win has now been effectively thrown in jail. And the big thing is banned from running for 5 years. That's the key. So they did in France what the left wanted to do here. But long story short, the state legislature should stand up to these thugs on the Supreme Court, and they won't. Well, if they lose the election today, it'll be 4 conservatives, 3 liberals. We block them and we stop them. We block them off at the pass. But make no mistake, if Susan Crawford wins, the Dems believe they're marching back to power. Thank you for that call, Derek. 617-266-6868 is the number. Casper in Belmont. Thanks for holding, Casper, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi.
You left out one country, which was Turkey, because it's been in the Globe almost every day. He threw his opposition candidate into jail, and every reporter that dared to write about the story was also thrown in jail, which is real. I mean, when's the last time you've seen reporters thrown in jail? And banning rallies, and it's just incredible. But to get to the Musk issue, my question is, has he ever been charged with discrimination? He has all these companies. Has anybody ever said he discriminates against us? I've never heard of it.
No.
But George Soros is a real Nazi. He actually worked for the Nazis. He grabbed Jews and threw them into concentration camps. Anybody that gets money from him, I'm sorry, guilt by association, I'm going to call them a Nazi, and I think I have every right to do it. Whereas, how can you call Elon Musk a Nazi? What did he do? He didn't do anything. All he said is, did you go to work this week? I guess you didn't. Well, here's your pink slip. What's wrong with that? You know? And
no, nothing.
And these protests in front of the Tesla dealerships. We should go there with signs that say, man-made climate change is all a hoax. See, all my brothers and sisters are here with me protesting that this is all fake. What would they say when the news cameras came and you said, yeah, we're all together on this? They'd have a heart attack and die. I mean, people need to really start standing up and saying, look, open your eyes, see what's going on, and just tell them to stop it. I mean,
no, Casper, you're dead on. No, Casper, you're dead on. And look, you're clicking on all cylinders. And look, this is, again, I just shake my head. I'm watching this, and you're reading up about, just take the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, okay? As Trump came out and said yesterday, he goes, this is a very big race. He says, I'm urging all my supporters in Wisconsin, I'm practically begging you, please vote. I know you're going to say it's a Supreme Court race. Why? It has national implications, and it's going to affect me and my ability to govern and my agenda. Now, not now. This redistricting will only kick in for the 2026 midterms. But 2 seats is all the Democrats need to flip control and to get it back. So he's urging everybody in Wisconsin, vote like it's a general. Vote like it was November of last year. And this is what I just find incredible, Casper. Where's the Republican Party? Where's the Republican National Committee? Where's Mike Johnson? Where's John Thune? You have George Soros going nuclear on Wisconsin. And again, he's a Nazi. He's a virulent, disgusting anti-Semite. He's a murderer. He's a mass murderer. He sent thousands of Jews to the gas ovens in Hungary during World War II. He literally collaborated with the Nazis. He went with the SS, house to house to house, saying, Jew, Jew, Jew. By the way, when they, took these poor Jewish civilians and threw them on cattle cars, he then went into their homes personally and took their jewelry or their money or everything of value. So he stole from Jews who he sent to Auschwitz and Treblinka and Buchenwald, and then amassed a small fortune by stealing their money and their jewelry and whatever they had that was of value. And by the way, his father did the same thing. His father separately. Like, in other words, it wasn't even like they were together. They were like, no, Junior, you go with this SS people. I go with these SS people. This way we'll deport more Jews, and then I'll raid those houses, and you raid those houses. So this way we're going to steal even more. Say we do 10 houses a day each. Well, that's 20 houses. But Junior, if you and I go together, that's only 10 houses. We're both going to the same house. I'm telling you, that's how sick this guy is. You can look it up. It's all 1,000% documented. He even admits it in an interview. And when asked, said, well, I have no conscience about it. Why should I have a conscience about it? It was my life or their life. Psst. Okay. Now, contrast this with Elon. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, so Soros goes all in on this race that nobody ever heard of. State Supreme Court in Wisconsin? Yeah, whatever. Who wins? It's up to you. And Soros says, no, guys, we're going to redistrict. And we're going to redistrict that it's going to cost Republicans 2 seats. Dring, dring. Hakeem, you need 2 seats? Yeah, I need 2 seats. 2 seats will give you the majority? Yes, it will. Okay, I'm putting in $1 million. I'm going to get another 20 million from my people. You start campaigning in Wisconsin. You get Schumer involved. You go to Reid Hoffman, who's another billionaire, lefty, a big left-wing globalist billionaire. You have him pour another 20 million in, and we're going to destroy Trump, and you won't even see it coming. Thune, nothing. Mike Johnson, nothing. The Republican National Committee, nothing. Now remember, it's Mike Johnson's majority. He's going to lose it. Thune is supposed to be, in theory, protecting the president. The Republican National Committee, I don't know what they do. You're supposed to be protecting the president. And it's Elon who's running how many businesses? Creating how many jobs? Rescuing how many astronauts from outer space? Who's now seeing one of his most valued companies, Tesla, literally going up in smoke because he's the target of left-wing terrorism? Who's now sleeping on a cot in Washington, D.C. He sleeps on a sofa or a cot because he's working around the clock to expose all of this fraud and corruption and abuse of our money. And he's the one that catches this. And then he's the one that, writes a $3 million check to Brad Schimmel and says, I'm not going to let you sink, and then he gets his people to cough up another 16 million. And then he starts going to Wisconsin on his own dime to hold rallies on behalf of Brad Schimmel. And he's hitting Milwaukee. He's hitting Green Bay. He goes, I'm doing everything almost single-handedly. I'm going to try to push Schimmel over the finish line because I'm trying to protect Trump's presidency. Okay, my friends, this is from 603. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man at 70470, 70470. And I think really hits the nail on the head. Jeff, you know what I find so mind-blowing is how so many on the left, their personal greed seems to override even their own sense of self-preservation. And I'm not just talking about these ground-level, brainwashed liberal voters out there like, say, Bill from Sudbury, who can't seem to find their butt with both hands. No, I'm talking about all of these apparatchiks in the media who willfully and knowingly push and support the globalist Soros agenda. It is no secret that Soros's endgame is to collapse the American system and utterly destroy America, i.e. what he called sink the ship. And he's been quite open about it. By the way, this is all true. Soros is naked about it. He's been saying this for 30 years. He wants to sink America's ship, collapse the entire system. And 603 continues. Yet these fools in the media somehow think that if this sink ships, they don't sink with it. Well, my message to the media is this. You're not going to be part of the ruling class. You're not going to be part of the power structure. And you have no life raft. If this ship goes down, you go down with it. Thank God we have men like President Trump and Elon Musk who fully realize this and are trying everything they can to wake people up and stop it at all costs. That's what I think 603 really put his finger on it. This is what academics, Hollywood, bureaucrats, apparatchiks, as 603 calls them, the media, this is what these elites just don't get. If you sink the entire system, they go down as well. And Soros wants a socialist revolution. That's why he wants to destroy America. And you have a socialist revolution, you're not going to see these people with their multi-million-dollar salaries and their extravagant, flamboyant lifestyles. They're going to be poor just like everybody else. In other words, they're hanging themselves. They're cutting their own throats. And that's how fanatical, how naive, and honestly, how corrupt they are. They're so corrupt, they can't even see their very own self-interest or their very own self-preservation. Agree, disagree. Ken in the great state of Georgia. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ken?
Good. It's been since probably the 90s, since the GOP has probably been solely taken over by Democrat-like politicians. That's why they're not doing anything. They kind of agree on what's going on. They don't want to stop Trump and change. They could have found out all these problems years ago. They had to take an outsider like Musk to kind of open up, pull back the curtain, and show everything. You agree?
Oh, I completely agree. And look, Ken, I'll be brutally honest. Like I'm in the confessional. I think what Elon has now done with Doge and everything else, and that Wiz team, this team of brainiacs that he's brought on board who are doing phenomenal patriotic work, I think it's time to make Doge permanent. I know the idea is just to keep it temporary. I'm like, no, keep it permanent. I think they're doing such outstanding work. I'm like, Elon, stay as long as you want. Your team, stay as long as you want. Look, what it's now shown to me is that if you really want to change things and make this country better, you can't rely on the political establishment at all. You have to go outside the system, completely outside the system. If you trust the system or if you try to rely on anyone within the system, I think now it's obvious. They're so tainted and they're so corrupted and they're so implicated in this that you're right. These Republicans, deep down, many of them don't want Trump, don't like Trump, don't believe in his agenda. They just feared the voters, us. So they're pretending to get along to go along. But the first chance they get, like Judas, they'll stab him right in the back. Final word to you, Ken.
Yeah, Jeff, so go back to the Rogan interview with Musk. Rogan asked him, why haven't they done anything to arrest anybody as he pulled back? And Musk straight out said, yeah, it's great to be the captain of the ship, but if you got a bunch of crews who are mutineers, nothing's going to get done. So that's the problem. And I think we have to, as voters, we have to primary everybody. I don't care who it is. Primary everybody. We need a whole new set of people in there. Get rid of the Republican Party leadership that runs the RNC. It needs a whole new change. If not, we just wait till the ship sinks and then start over. That's the only two options I see.
Well, Ken, I love that analogy you just cited of what Elon said. You know, yeah, it's great to be the captain of the ship, but you're only as good as your crew. And if they're ready to, to mutiny at any turn, at any possibility, at any sign of trouble, then you're basically paralyzed. And I think that's been Trump's problem. Everyone says, well, why doesn't he do this and why doesn't he do that? And if you sat with him, in a living room, in a private setting on a couch or whatever, having a drink, he'd say, no one's got my back. How can I go to war when I've got the enemy in front of me and the enemy behind me? So they're all pretending to be my friends, but really they've all got their guns trained on my back. So I think that's his problem. And I think what Elon has now done is Elon has really become Trump's right hand. Okay, my friends. So Elon Musk, as I said, has been barnstorming Wisconsin because of today's all-important do-or-die election. And this was not why he began to look into Social Security, the Social Security Administration, as you're going to see in the cuts that I'm going to play now over the next couple of minutes. He and a private equity titan who's part of the Doge team, he's a wealthy man himself, Antonio Gracias, were just looking into the waste, fraud, and abuse that they found in Social Security. And you know what they found. The most famous one that they found was a couple of weeks ago, they exposed this bombshell, was that there are 15 million people over the age of 120 years old who have A, Social Security numbers, B, are still in the Social Security database, with many of them receiving benefits. Obviously, massive fraud and abuse on a colossal scale. And then they found something else. And as both of them pointed out, this was at a rally in Green Bay, they put up a chart and the audience couldn't believe it. They were stunned. And he said, and they both stressed, they go, look, we really want to stress this. This was almost by the grace of God. We were not looking for illegal aliens, voter fraud. We were looking for waste, fraud, and abuse of Social Security benefits. And we just happened to stumble into this. And once we stumbled into it, we just kept like peeling an onion. We just kept peeling it and peeling it. And it just got more rotten the more we peeled it. And so here is what they discovered. Okay, brace yourselves. Now, in a way, many of you are going to say, well, we've known this, Jeff. But here's the difference. Now we have the irrefutable proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. And we have the receipts. Okay? We have the cold, hard facts and evidence. So here it is, my friends. In 2021, 270,000 illegal aliens were given fraudulent Social Security numbers. In 2022, it shot up to 1 million. In 2023, it shot up to nearly 2 million. In 2024, it went up to 2.1 million illegal aliens were given fraudulent Social Security numbers. In total, Musk and Antonio Gracias together said we found at least, and we're still searching, we're still investigating, but we've so far have found minimum 5.5 million illegal aliens who were given Social Security numbers. But it gets worse. It gets worse. And as Antonio Gracia said, this is not political for me. It's not political. My parents were born in Spain. Both my brother and my sister were born in Spain. I come from a family of immigrants, but I am pro-legal immigration, not illegal immigration. And then they said, we have found the conspiracy. Joe Biden and the Democrats deliberately let in millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens into our country. It was not an accident. It was deliberate. It wasn't negligence. It was premeditated. And then all of those the 15 million people with Social Security numbers who are 120, 130, 140, 150 years old, those Social Security numbers were then given to the illegals. And once the illegals got the Social Security numbers, by the way, no interview, no ID, nothing. They could be mass murderers. They could be rapists. They could be gangbangers. They could be terrorists. It doesn't matter. They were all given fraudulent Social Security numbers. And then they were given Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, Social Security benefits. And yes, they were also registered to vote. And millions and millions and millions not only were registered to vote, illegal aliens with these Social Security numbers, because now they're in the system as citizens. They're all legal citizens in the system. So they're getting all these benefits like any American citizen would, with their fake names and their fake ages. And then they said, well, let's look at the voter registration records. They weren't just registered to vote. They voted. Millions of them voted. Rampant voter fraud. And it was all done deliberately by Biden, Kamala, Mayorkas, Merrick Garland, Antony Blinken. It was a premeditated plan, as Elon Musk said, to change the voting map of America, to transform the country into a permanent deep blue one-party state. Voter fraud has been happening for years. They've been giving illegals fraudulent, this is all illegal, Social Security numbers. They're not just draining our social services. You want to know why Social Security is on the verge of going broke? Because they put so many illegals getting fraudulent Social Security benefits. You want to know why Medicare and Medicaid are on the verge of going broke? Because they loaded them up with illegals. But they registered them to vote, and then they mobilized them to vote, and they did vote. Listen now to Antonio Gracias. He breaks down the options, saying, okay, here is exactly what happened. Here was the scam. He goes, I went to Social Security offices. I went all the way down to the border. I spoke to the Border Patrol. So did Elon. Here is what they told us. Roll cut 24, Mike.
Is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid. They'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview. Then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release from your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, notice to appear, which to appear at a judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people. Okay?
Now, 5.5 million illegals. They just, basically it's catch and release. Okay? So they release them on their quote unquote recognizance.
And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. This country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed this in this direction. I want to honor them right now. That work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on.
750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Okay, by the way, the text line has exploded. The email, you can email the Kuhner Man as always. You can email me, Jeffrey Kuhner at iHeartMedia.com. Jeffrey Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER at iHeartMedia.com. The only reason why I'm mentioning this is the left is going ballistic. The hate mail, the hate texts, their worldview is now crashing right in front of them. They're going nuts. Okay. They're going absolutely berserk right now. So, that's Antonio Gracias. He's on the Doge team. He's a very wealthy man, a private equity titan. And he was the one, along with Elon, that has now discovered rampant voter fraud, in which 5.5 million illegals, and that's not the final number. That's just what they've caught so far, were given fraudulent Social Security numbers and then given Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security benefits, food stamps, and were registered to vote, and many of them actually did vote. They caught them. They caught them dead to rights. So, what Antonio Gracias stressed, and you just heard a little bit of in that clip coming in, is there were whistleblowers within the Social Security Administration. Both he and Elon said, I want you to know we couldn't have done it on our own. That there are good, decent, patriotic people within the government, within the bureaucracy, within SSA, Social Security Administration, who said, look, we've been in fear for our lives. We knew if we went to the media, we would be destroyed. But since you're investigating, they're giving out Social Security numbers to illegals like they're hotcakes, like it's candy. And these illegals have been fraudulently receiving all kinds of checks from the government. And yes, they're voting. They're voting, and here's how you can prove that they're voting. So, with these whistleblowers now showing them exactly how the scam works, and ICE now telling them as well. Listen now to Antonio Gracias. So he says they poured in by the millions. Biden told them to come, incentivized them to come. They come in, catch, and release. And then they were all given Social Security numbers. And then listen to what happens next. Roll cut 24A, Mike.
Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
You see how it worked? See how it worked? You come in, catch and release. They tell them what to apply for, this little dinky work form, and then boom, no interview, no identification, nothing. Are you a citizen, not a citizen? Are you on a visa? Are you, do you have a right to a Social Security number? Nothing. Now you're given one of those 15 million Social Security numbers of people who are 120, 130, 140, 150 years old. You're saying, well, they're quote unquote living, quote in air quotes. Yeah, they're giving them to the illegals. So now with the Social Security number that they have, right? Think about it. Now in the system, well, they're all legal. They're all American citizens. And then listen. Here's Elon Musk. So as Gracias points this out, how they were sending them these Social Security cards and the number literally in the mail. Again, these could be mass murderers. They could be rapists. They could be terrorists. Who knows? Who cares? Listen to Elon saying this wasn't sloppiness. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't, Biden is a senile buffoon and, I don't know what I'm doing. Is it Wednesday or Friday? Is, Mr. Magoo Act. No. Listen to Elon. Roll cut 24B, Mike.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep.
No.
They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Okay, it was as we were talking about for years on this show, that many of you kept saying over and over again. This was a chance to implement a political revolution in the United States. You import the third world, you get them on all these government benefits. That's why they made it so easy for them. Put them on Social Security, put them on Medicare, put them on Medicaid, put them on food stamps, give them just literally give them checks, give them prepaid Visa cards, give them cash from the government, from the Democratic Party, and then register them to vote. And you import, the more illegals you import, the easier it is to get rid and obliterate all of these swing states. Because now you're literally changing the demographics and the voting patterns of the country. And you've now created a one-party democratic country. One-party rule. Now, listen to Antonio Gracias. Because listen to this, he goes, look, I'm a well-educated man. I read the media. I read newspapers. I follow the media. Had I not participated in this myself, had I not seen all of this with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Because I never thought that the government could be this diabolical, this craven, this cynical, frankly, this treacherous and treasonous, this evil. And then he says, we found How many of them are on Medicaid? Roll cut 24C, Mike.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through, on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs.
They're collecting Social Security. They're on Medicaid. They're on Medicare. They're collecting SNAP, food stamps. They're getting housing. They're getting housing subsidies. Listen to this. I'm not trying to get your blood boiling, but you need to know this. Do you know that they're getting the earned income tax credit? They're getting child tax credits. Elon and Antonio Gracias were saying, no, the government was handing out to them $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 checks because they had these Social Security numbers. No, like, yeah, I got 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids or whatever. And, I only make so much money and because they're all working under the table. And so literally we were paying all of us to give them $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 checks. That's the earned income tax credit. I'm not talking about the prepaid Visa gift cards. I'm not talking about, by the way, they're all collecting EBT. I'm not talking about the welfare benefits that they were all collecting. I'm talking about, if you're, got a couple kids and you're of moderate income or modest income, you can apply for these tax credits. And the government writes you back, credits you with a nice check. And that's what Gracias and Elon Musk was saying. That's what they were saying. They go, it was maximum benefits to as many of these illegals as possible with these fraudulent Social Security numbers. And here it is. So they kept digging and digging. Remember, this was all accidental. They just started off looking at waste, fraud, and abuse in Social Security. Now they're into illegals being brought in by the millions, being given fake Social Security numbers of American citizens. So now they're considered citizens in the system. And now they're draining everything. Now they're sucking on the public teat of everything. But then they go, well, what about voting? I mean, if they are American citizens, and, quote unquote, in air quotes, if they're given these Social Security numbers and they're collecting benefits up the wazoo and they're milking the American taxpayer dry and Biden is doing all this, is he actually having them vote? Here it is. Roll cut 24D. Mike.
And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. Right. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote. In this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay, now I'm happy they've been referred to Homeland Security. Kristi Noem needs to step up. Pam Bondi needs to step up. They need to be prosecuted. Frankly, I think they all need to be deported. If you came in and took a fraudulent Social Security number, out. If you came in and were on any benefit program whatsoever, anything, I don't care, out. If you voted, out. If you were registered to vote, out. To me, just deport the hell out. Deport them all, okay? But just back it up just for a second. So, you may be saying, Jeff, but how did they find out that all these illegals were voting? Because they pulled their registration records, their voting registration records, through their Social Security numbers. And so I'm just going to make up, a name, okay? Vladimir Chekhov from Russia came into the United States illegally through the southern border. they gave him a phony social security number of an American citizen, let's say Jimmy Williams, who apparently is magically 158 years old. That's just incredible. So he's no longer, Vladimir Chekhov. He's now Jimmy Williams. Or he has the social security of Jimmy Williams. So let's pull Jimmy Williams' voter registration record. And guess what? He voted. He voted. He wasn't just registered to vote. And by the way, they're all of them registered as Democrats. All of them. 100%. Not 99.99999. 100% Dem. Okay? Democrat. And they all voted Democrat. One after another, after another, after another, after another. And so Elon said, we've caught millions of them voting. By the way, remember 2022? Remember I had my wife on, my wonderful wife? And she said that thing was stolen. Don't believe it. Remember the red wave? The red wave, the red wave. And we're like, what? I don't understand. Biden is destroying the country. He's crashing in the polls. How the hell was there not this giant red wave in the midterms of 2022? And Grace said, don't believe the media. They're lying to you. They're giving all these reasons why it didn't happen. Now we know why. Because they had all of these illegals voting. And it diluted our vote and it disenfranchised our vote. As an example, okay? Now, the question is, what is Trump going to do with this absolute, this is not a bombshell. This is a mother bombshell. Now, let me tell you what I'm shocked. I'm not shocked that it happened because we've been talking about it for years. I'm amazed, surprised, and very impressed that Elon and Antonio Gracias and his team tracked all of this down and now have the receipts, the cold, hard, irrefutable evidence that this was deliberate, that they were importing millions of illegals on purpose in order to give them maximum government benefits so that they could then get social security numbers, get maximum government benefits, so they can then register and vote in elections and subvert our republic and subvert our democracy, steal our country from us. This was treason. Miranda Devine, one of the best columnists in the country, a brilliant investigative reporter who combines great reporting with her opinions, now says this is the greatest scandal in American history. I agree. I agree. And that there needs to be a special counsel. There needs to be now investigations. That they need to be put under oath. Biden, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, Antony Blinken, who was clearly one of the key people involved in this. All of them. They need now to be put under oath. And if they lie, send them to jail. Trump should be all over this. All over this. In fact, my recommendation to him, don't talk about anything else. And have Elon to his right and Antonio Gracias to his left at the Oval Office. And whatever question they ask, I'm not answering. All I'm talking about is this. And get Mike Johnson and get John Thune into his office and say, okay, I want investigations. I want them now. Pam Bondi, appoint a special counsel now. The country now needs to be made aware of what Elon just discovered. Now, let me tell you what I am shocked at. Where's the media? As I said on X last night, where's the media? I went on my handle on X to awaken the country about this mother scandal that will destroy the Democratic Party, that will literally undo the entire Biden regime. This is a scandal the Democrats, frankly, may never recover from. And I'm like, there's me, there's Miranda Devine, there's the Gateway Pundit. You've got Breitbart is kind of touched on the issue. Fox has mentioned it, but almost like in passing. Outside of that, nothing. Media silence. A media blackout. And I believe there's a media blackout because everybody's afraid of the ramifications, the consequences of this. It will blow up the entire establishment. It will blow up the entire system. It will be not just a death knell to the Democratic Party, but it'll plunge us into a constitutional crisis. And I believe a good, if anything can be, a crisis can be good, this is it. Because now they're going to say they blatantly engaged in voter fraud. It is now irrefutable, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Biden was illegitimate. His entire presidency was illegitimate. Trump was completely 1,000% vindicated. You, me, us, Kuhner country, we were vindicated. But what do we do now with the Biden 4 years? This has never happened before in American history. And they don't want to confront the ramifications of that. They don't want to touch the implications of this. So pretend like Elon didn't find it, pretend like Elon never said it, and then sweep it under the rug. I want to go to the phone lines and get your reaction to this mother of all bombshells, okay? But before I do, this was sent to me by John Featherston. Remember, I've had him on. He used to run one of Healy's hotels, okay, the so-called migrant shelters here in Massachusetts. Here is what he wrote to me. He goes, Jeff, I have firsthand experience and knowledge that confirms everything what Elon and Antonio Gracias have now proven. Quote, this is what he said, and he said, please read it on the air. The Haitians and Guatemalans on the Healy Hotel in Marlborough, Mass. were all signed up for Social Security. So they got benefits and they were registered to vote. I delivered mail every day and I saw it happen firsthand. First, they all got their Social Security card. Then their EBT card. Then Mass Health, free health care. Then voter registration. All part of the plan. That's why everything was free. They were buying votes. Most, frankly, did not care about the voting, the illegals. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. Eddie in Chelsea, you've been patiently holding, Eddie. Thank you and welcome.
Jeff, you're always 1,000% correct. The Republicans always sit around and do nothing until it's just about too late. And thank goodness Elon is stepping up, and he's stepping up because of Trump. Because Trump was the first one to make the Republicans realize they need to fight. And they're still not fighting. And we don't know what it's going to take to get those people going. And I'm sure you know gerrymandering is a Massachusetts origination. And it's one of those things where they take the people who are supposed to be represented and just completely disfranchise them. I don't think people realize what these district maps do to them, where they put them in places where they don't even realize. You got counties mixing with counties that are not even connected geographically. And if this Wisconsin thing happened, like you were saying, the Trump agenda could be completely dismantled in less than 2 years.
Well, Eddie, you're completely right on absolutely every count. Look, I'm just thinking of the congressional district that I live in. Okay. And I live out in the exurbs. Like what am I? I'm like 10 minutes from the Rhode Island border. Like I live in southern Massachusetts, right? Do you know that parts of Boston are in my district? If you look at my district, it's hilarious. Like the way it's drawn up. It's like, it's so gerrymandered. Like they're going to guarantee, well, no, we can't have too many people in the suburbs in one district because God forbid that may go Republican. So it's like a shoehorn. Like a reverse. Yeah, it's like a reverse horseshoe. I guess that's the way I would describe it. It's Boston, parts of Boston, then it goes up into the northern part of the state, and then it comes all the way down to the southern part of the state. I've never seen a district like this. And every single one of them is deliberately designed to make sure that a single Republican never wins a seat. And now they're going to do the same thing in Wisconsin. And they're going to take, a Republican-leaning state, went for Trump. Republicans have a majority in both the state, state house, the state senate in Wisconsin. And before you know it, poof, Shazam. Like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. 2 seats appear for the Democrats, congressional seats, and 2 Republican seats suddenly are taken off the column. It's just, in a way, you got to marvel at how ingenious these Democrats are. And where's Mike Johnson? I don't know. Where's John Thune? I don't know. Where are most Republicans? I don't know. I know Ted Cruz has got a podcast, and he's plugging his podcast. So, okay, I'm happy he's plugging his podcast. I see them all flapping their mouths on Fox News or on Newsmax. But they're not in Wisconsin. They're not on the ground. They're not fighting. It's Trump and Elon. Elon and Trump. Trump and Elon. And to be fair, J.D. Vance. J.D.'s the only other one. He's out there fighting. Everybody else, honestly, I'd love to have one of them come on this show. And I say, just give me your day. Be like, well, what do you mean? No. I don't want to ask you about an issue. So you give me all your talking points. Tell me specifically, give me your morning, afternoon, and night. Tell me, what is your day like? What do you do all day? Go. And I think you and I, we'd be listening and we're like, that's it? You basically, you do nothing all day. And so what are we paying you for? Eddie, final word to you.
Well, we know they do nothing because we never get our money's worth out of these people. And those $1 million giveaways that Elon does, they're open to registered voters. It doesn't matter whether they were Republican or Democrats. It's the most non-partisan thing he does. So anybody can win those $1 million. And all they have to do is say, yes, I support the Constitution, or I support judges not be partisan. So this people who are trying to make a big deal out of the money he gives away, they're people who really don't know what's going on.
Eddie, as always, thank you very much for that call. Linda in Rhode Island. Speaking of Rhode Island, Linda, thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Linda.
So I'm going to make 3 points, but at the beginning, I'm going to tell you exactly why this is happening now, and exactly why we lost a couple of years ago. Okay. Our Father is great. God is great, Jeff. And He makes the impossible reality, okay? I knew Trump was not going to win in 2020 because he was preparing Donald Trump and his angel armies to get together and band together, Jeff, and show the people that were not awake which was a majority, Jeff, because this stuff has been going on for longer than you can imagine, especially in Massachusetts, Jeff, okay? So the Lord had to wake everybody up in those 4 years and prove the truth, Jeff. Now, you think that this isn't God's perfect timing right now? This is God's perfect timing. And he gave Trump Elon, he gave him Kennedy, and he's giving him more and more angel armies, Jeff. And nothing is going to happen because God has his right hand on these people. So the best thing we can do right now is pray, okay? That's number one. Number two, as I said, this has been going on in Massachusetts for decades, Jeff. People have been getting Social Security numbers, and they're illegal. They've been getting housing. They've been getting all of this. And as far as the gentleman who was working in the hotels, I can testify to that also because I was driving a bus bringing these illegals from hotel to hotel. And the National Guard was at these hotels, okay? And they had a welcome table, just like they were VIPs, Jeff. The hotels were locked. They would unlock them when we pull up and give them everything like it was a VIP event, all right? Now, when is everybody going to wake up? Because God is, like I said, he's showing everybody. Okay? Who in their right mind would vote for a Democrat knowing that they're treasonous with everything that they do to us?
Well, Linda, look, I think you raised the question, and I've got to put this on the table now. With everything we're finding out, we know the elections in Mass are dirty, and they've been corrupt. No question. The Kuhner Country poll question of the day. And this is now going to take on, I think, added urgency after everything now we've been discussing this morning. It is sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Should voter registration be federalized? In other words, do we need the federal government to come in and clean it up? Because clearly now we are talking about fraud, corruption, abuse of power, thievery, election thievery, and subversion on an historic, colossal scale. This is the scandal of the century, maybe one of the biggest scandals, if not the biggest scandal in American history. And it's clear now, the voting rolls have to be purged in every single state. They have to be purged. And as Craig pointed out recently on Messenger, he said, Jeff, well, now you know why the Democrats go absolutely crazy when you ask for voter ID. Now it's so obvious. I mean, everything becomes so clear now. When you've got millions of illegals clearly now irrefutably voting, using fraudulent Social Security numbers, of course you don't want voter ID, because voter ID will not just catch the voting fraud. Voter ID will then find out that's literally a different person's name and Social Security number attached to them. And they're illegally getting Social Security benefits and Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps and EBT and welfare and child tax credits and government checks. I mean, it exposes the whole system. That's why they fight voter ID tooth and nail. So let me ask you, should the feds move in and federalize voter registration? In other words, to clean up all the voting rolls and purge all of these illegals from voting? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and I urge all of you, if you don't follow me, please follow me on X. My handle there, @the Kuhner Report, KUHNER N as in National ER, at the Kuhner Report. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Tonight, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm going to repost this scandal. Probably do it in a, 2 or 3, I don't know what you call them now, tweets or X's or, anyway, I'm going to post on X, on my handle, maybe 2 or 3 of them in succession to drive this scandal, to drive this story, to awaken people's eyes, to open their eyes to what Elon has now irrefutably discovered and irrefutably proved. And hopefully that will shame conservatives to push this story and shame Fox News and Newsmax and every other conservative media outlet to cover this, because if they do, then the Democrats are finished. And frankly, I think it's our duty as citizens, but I'm speaking now for myself, as a journalist, as a commentator, as an opinion journalist. To me, it's my duty to put a spotlight on this, and I think every other conservative media outlet should follow. And Trump's team, if you're listening, I know the president's got a ton on his plate. Believe me, I know. Tomorrow is Liberation Day. He's got the tariffs. He's got Putin now wanting not to do the peace deal. He's got Zelensky not wanting to do the peace deal. I understand the poor man is being pushed to the brink and to the limit, but he's got to be all over this. This is the mother of all scandals. And if properly exposed with Elon and J.D. Vance and Antonio Gracias, all of them together in the Oval Office, this could be the stake that you drive right through the heart of the Democratic Party. Agree, disagree? David in Ashland. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, David.
Boy, it's like my blood pressure's high this morning. I'd have to say, I'm really totally upset with the whole situation. I mean, I'm a Massachusetts person, of course, but, back during the voting time, the Democrats were out, Warren in the sanctuary city, all her minions, signing people up. But the one area I want to kind of give you a heads up about, I know that NSAID came up with the fact that the Catholic Church was involved with a lot of money. I can tell you that I lived near a church in Framingham that has standing room only, Portuguese, Spanish, all kinds of migrants. The church was having them fill out papers for whether they had jobs, all kinds of personal information about each of them. And I think that what's happening, I always thought the church and the state were supposed to be separate. If the church wants to get involved with all of this stuff and stick their face in everything, like these pastors and whatever giving their political views, then they should be taxed. I'm tired of it. And these people here should not be getting, they're telling them how to work the system and everything else. And it's not fair to me. I'm a disabled vet. I'm trying to get the tax relief elder thing that they have in Massachusetts. I'm getting audited for it, but they give the money away to everybody else. I'm fed up, and I'll do whatever I need to do.
Well, David, look, this is the ultimate goal. This is, in fact, Elon expressly said this. We don't want these checks going to people who haven't earned it, who don't deserve it, and who are not citizens of the United States, who actually are not even legally allowed to be in America. It's supposed to go exactly to people like you, literally to people like you, to veterans who put their life, their limb, their bodies, their health on the line for our country. And disabled vets should be given first priority. As Antonio Gracia said, they got maximum benefits, maximum inclusion, the illegals. They gave them everything. And they didn't ask any questions. No illegal was audited. No matter what they asked for, they got it. It didn't matter how much it cost. They audit you. They audit me. I'm not a vet. I'm not disabled, but as a citizen, they come after me, especially because of my views. So the government, especially in this state, harasses me. They come after me. So it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And all I can just tell you is this is getting exposed. And we now know that's the key. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. And Trump is on it. Elon is on it. Kristi Noem is on it. I hope to God Pam Bondi's on it. And we got to take decisive action. And I want to go to your earlier point about the Catholic Church. I can only speak for the Catholic Church because I'm a Catholic. I know that the Lutheran Church is also heavily involved with really in human trafficking. That's what this is. Bringing in migrants, resettling migrants. And I know other religious denominations. It's not just the Catholic Church. But I can tell you, I know through my church, they're always trying to set up migrants with government benefits, government programs, helping them get jobs. They know many of them are illegal. They don't care. I want to know if they were involved in getting them to register to vote on top of everything else. And were they helping illegals to illegally vote in our elections? And I just got to say this, David, and I don't want to bash my priests. Some of them are actually, good men. But it's become so politicized. Okay, just to put a very quick exclamation point on that conversation I was having with David, a previous caller. Look, nothing against the priests in my parish. They're very nice men. They're diligent at their job. But maybe once they mentioned abortion and talked about the pro-life cause. Maybe. I can't remember. Really, I can't remember. But I can tell you, we keep hearing homily after homily after homily about illegals, the migrants, take care of the illegals, take care of the migrants. We have to accept the migrants. We have to accept the illegals. So they're politicizing the pulpit. And again, I'm not picking on the Catholic Church because I know the Lutherans do it. I know other denominations do it. I'm a Catholic. So, that's why I'm talking about the Catholic Church. And I agree with David completely. They should lose their nonprofit, their tax-exempt status. If you're going to openly engage in political activism, and that's what this is, and essentially now become the religious arm of the Democratic Party and the globalists, then I'm sorry. If you're going to be signing up these illegals to give them government benefits, and my fear is maybe to give them the right to vote or to register to vote, then no tax-exempt status for you. Absolutely none. And that's the problem. When you have this kind of money sloshing around through that USAID scandal, as an example, and we find out that $3 billion has gone to the Catholic Church alone. Never mind, all these other religious denominations. Well, that's a powerful economic, financial vested interest, an incentive to suddenly be all for open borders and illegal immigration. And I want to touch on a very important point that Antonio Gracias made, where he said, look, the voter fraud is repulsive. The blatant stealing and theft and abuse of our government benefits, of Medicaid and Social Security and welfare and EBT and food stamps and these child tax credits where the illegals were just, red-handed, millions of them caught getting all of these benefits they're not entitled to because they were given fraudulent Social Security numbers. He goes, all of this is atrocious and it's going to bankrupt our country. But he said to him, what's even more shocking was the human tragedy of this. And it's very powerful. You can see it's got tears in his eyes. And he looked around the room at this rally in Green Bay and he said, do you know how much money the narcos and the Mexican drug cartels have made off of this human trafficking? $13 to $15 billion a year. And he said, that's not just dollars and cents. And he gave specific examples from Africa, from Central and South America. He goes, they charge them $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and to transport them through the Darien Gap, through Mexico, into the United States. And he says, you think people in Central America or Africa have $20,000? He goes, they become indentured servants. You're basically now working for the cartels here in America. And if you don't pay them back with interest, as he said, we found this out. The Border Patrol, ICE has confirmed it to us. Their brothers get killed. Their mothers get shot. Their families get massacred. And he said women are told to get into prostitution. Others are told to become drug dealers or drug mules. And he said the worst of the worst is that they traffic children. And he said, let me tell you what we found at Doge in talking with ICE and Border Patrol. 30,000 children were trafficked into the United States by these disgusting predatory drug cartels. Okay, these are black children from Africa, Hispanic or Latino children from Central America. And he goes, they're being sexually exploited. They're being molested. They're being continually raped. They're being violated. And they're dead. 30,000 have literally disappeared. Another 270,000 they've lost complete track of. And they believe that they're being used by these cartels as children prostitutes or sold to, let's say, wealthy people in Hollywood who are then using these kids basically as their sex slaves. He goes, and Joe Biden and the Democrats incentivized all of this. They created a country and a system where you could become obscenely wealthy in engaging what is in effect modern day slavery and the modern day slave trade in child sex trafficking and human trafficking. This is beyond disgusting. This is evil at its most fundamental core. This is satanic. So as they both of them said, they said, look, believe it or not, as bad as everything else is, this is more than just votes and dollars and cents and government programs and subverting our country and our republic and our democracy. We're talking about a form of evil that we thought we had extinguished in our country and around the world. And now, because of the Democrats and the globalists, it's reared its ugly head again. And that the churches are implicated? That an entire party is directly involved in this? That the most powerful, wealthiest people in the world, like Klaus Schwab, like the World Economic Forum, like Bill Gates, like George Soros, are actively facilitating and participating and involved in this? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let me just, you need to hear this, okay? Please be patient with the Kuhner man. I know the lines are jammed. I said this on X last night. I want to repeat it now. And please, I want all of you to hear this. So, as Musk and Gracias are laying out this devastating indictment of what they're doing, okay, of what the Democrats have done with the illegals, with these Social Security numbers, with all this voter fraud now, with giving them all of these government benefits and government programs. Musk says, I'm going to be very honest with all of you. You see this terrorism against Tesla and against Tesla dealerships and how they've turned me now into the second coming of Adolf Hitler. And he openly tells the crowd, it's not, yes, it's because I endorse Trump. Yes, it's because I'm leading Doge. But he goes, let me tell you what it really is. What's really driving this fanatical hatred, this mortal fear of me and what we're doing. And this is what he said. That this hatred for Elon, he goes, this is not made up by the right. This is absolutely true. The real reason for these attacks on Tesla dealerships and the burning of Tesla cars is that we're going to turn off the payments to illegals. I think this is the biggest voter fraud in the history of America by far. And if the machine behind the Kamala Harris puppet had won, then they would have legalized all the illegals and there would be no swing states. In other words, what he's saying is this: they will never forgive me for playing a pivotal, seminal role in getting Trump elected, in stopping their final takeover of the United States, because their goal, as I kept warning throughout the entire election, was install Kamala in power and then give mass amnesty to every single illegal, and that's it. The country is finished. Finished. One party, socialist, democratic rule for 100 years. But he also says, you want to know why they're really burning down the dealerships and burning down these cars and calling for me to be murdered? Is because now I'm telling Trump, we have found the illegals. We found the social security numbers. We found all of these government checks that are illegally going to these illegal aliens, and we're going to cut off the illegals. And eventually Trump is going to deport them all back. In other words, we're going to stop them before they can complete their evil, diabolical transformation of America. We're going to defund the illegals. And so their socialist revolution, just when they thought they were on the brink, is now going to be blocked at the last possible minute. And that's why they need to bankrupt me, they need to destroy me, and if necessary, they need to kill me. Tesla is not about Elon. Tesla is about rampant voter fraud and illegal aliens who have been getting fraudulent social security numbers and government benefits. This was their socialist army, and we just blocked them at the pass. 617-266-6868, literally in the nick of time. Sean in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Sean, and welcome.
Oh! Hey, Bruce and Woburn, how was it? How was that?
Sean, that was really good, man.
Jeff,
I got to tell you, I think Bruce would be hard-pressed to beat that one, Sean.
Favorite callers. I want Pam Bondi gone, Jeff. She's the one. We got all the evidence, and I want her gone. I really have a bad feeling about her. She's going to be the one that stabs us.
You're worried? You don't think Bondi has the stomach to go through with all of this?
Yeah, I don't think so. I really have a bad feeling about her. I've had a bad feeling about her since day one. We don't need no more pretty faces. We need action, Jeff, is the bottom line. They're trying to steal our country from us.
Well, Sean, let me ask you this. They've been referred, these illegals, millions of them, to Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and they're going to be referred to Pam Bondi. Do you think there will be mass arrests? Do you think they will go after these illegals for voter fraud? Do you think Pam Bondi, and I think this is the ultimate question, Sean, will she appoint a special counsel? Say Ken Paxton? Miranda Devine is recommending Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas. I mean, a tough, no holds barred, MAGA conservative, prosecutor and lawyer. Miranda Devine says you need a pit bull on this. Paxton's a pit bull. Will Pam Bondi do it? Will she pull the proverbial trigger? Or you think she'll just do another interview on Fox?
Going to do another interview on Fox, Jeff. I hope Trump's people are listening right now. We have all the evidence and nothing's getting done. At some point, it's almost like, what are we going to have to do? Take it into our own hands? This is a small, little amount of people that are not letting the American people's will happen. And it's getting ridiculous. We need action. If not, move out of the way and we'll find somebody else. Enough is enough.
Sean, thank you very much for that call. Dan in New Hampshire. I know you've been holding patiently. Thank you, Dan, and welcome.
Thank you. This is what you're talking about, Jeff. Okay, this whole stuff that you've been talking about is exactly the Kraken that Sidney Powell and General McMenemy, okay, were talking about, trying to expose corrupt elections. But they were taken out by the deep state, CIA, William Burns, FBI, James Comey and Christopher Wray, NSA, Lisa Monaco, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Rhinos. General Flynn talks about this stuff. And the only trial in the entire country waiting for trial right now on corrupt elections is in New Hampshire. Daniel Richard versus Governor Sununu in 2020, 22, 24. And it would blow everything sky open. It's as simple as that, Jeff. And these corrupt elections, okay, it goes around the country. It's been happening. I mean, I've talked about this before with the case on June 27, 2023, Moore versus Hopper, which set a precedent that would have helped President Trump on how illegal elections failed to follow constitutional laws, okay? You had a Louisiana court case, okay, that was overturned, an election, okay, between in Cato Parish on November 18, 2023, okay, between Democrat Henry Whitehorn and John Nicholson, okay? They overturned this thing, okay, Jeff, and it was because of they had Justice Blake's ruling confirmed by witness testimony. Individuals voted twice. Individuals voted who were ineligible to vote, and absentee voting did not comply with the Louisiana election laws. That has to do with New Hampshire. It's the same stuff.
Oh, you nailed it. You nailed it, Dan. I was waiting for you to get to New Hampshire. You absolutely nailed it. Look, I'm telling you right now, you can hold me to this, okay? Everybody, take it to the bank. I'll bet my house. I'll bet the whole thing. I'm telling you, that's how certain I am. Jeanne Shaheen is not the legitimate senator from New Hampshire. I'm telling you this right now. This idea that New Hampshire's been trending blue for, say, I don't know, the last 10, 12 years, bull, you know what I want to say. Bravo, Sierra, okay? BS, bullcrap. They're bringing in illegals. Illegals are illegally voting in New Hampshire. There's no question. And you've got these Massachusetts leftists who are going up on election day they vote here and then they go to New Hampshire and vote twice. Okay, it's an open secret what's going on up there. So they have been stealing Senate seats. They've been stealing elections. Trump won New Hampshire in 2024. He won New Hampshire in 2020. He won New Hampshire in 2016. And I want New Hampshire to have its own Doge. I want a thorough audit of what's going on, not just with the budget. I want a thorough audit of Social Security numbers and how are they being tied to illegal aliens. And I will bet you, forget my house, I will bet you my house, my cars, everything I own, that the Democrats have been stealing elections now using illegal aliens in New Hampshire. And one final point, Dan, because you've been on this for years saying there's rampant voter fraud here in New Hampshire. Don't trust the election system because it's rigged. And you're 1,000% correct. In Massachusetts, now you know why they won't audit the state budget. 72, almost 73% of voters in November of 2024. I mean, where do you get 73% of anybody agreeing on an issue? Well, here in Mass, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they said, we need to have a state audit. Yes, basically like a state version of Doge. What is the state legislature spending all the money on? Why is all this in secret? Why is it in the shadows? So we want thorough accounting, and we want full transparency of where our hard-earned taxpayer money is going. 72 to 73%, okay, almost 73% of voters said, yes, we want a thorough audit of the spending by the state legislature and the budget. Diane DeZoglio, God bless her, is the state auditor. She is being blocked, obstructed at every turn. Now, the state legislature has essentially told her, blank off. Literally, kiss off. You're not going to do an audit. We're never going to let you do the audit. We don't care how many ballot initiatives you win. We don't care how many people vote for this. They are openly defying the will of the people and the will of the voters. And now we know why. Because it's not just you're going to find billions of dollars missing and having been stolen by these corrupt gangsters up on Beacon Hill, or Michelle Wu, or Healy. I'll tell you what else you're going to find, just like what Elon found at the national level. Where's all this money going to? Track the Social Security numbers. They're giving money to illegals. It's like what John Featherston said to me about these Healy hotels. They're giving illegals in Massachusetts Social Security cards. Then they give them EBT. Then they give them Mass Health. And then they register them to vote. And that's how this stays a one-party state. Okay, you can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 512. Jeff, once these Social Security numbers and voting records show that the illegal aliens have actually voted, ICE needs to make massive arrests and examples of these people as a deterrent, and do it today. And illegal alien voting is an act of domestic terrorism. I agree. And it's a crime against our country and our republic, our constitution, and our democracy. Because remember, every illegal alien that votes negates your vote, my vote. It disenfranchises the vote of an actual citizen of the United States. And that's why we must have zero tolerance. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. And let me just say this, because often I can't tell you how many emails, messages on Messenger, text messages, when people meet me, I don't know, on the street or at a restaurant or whatever it is. They always say to me, Jeff, why aren't you on Fox News? Jeff, why aren't you on TV more often, Jeff? This is why. This is literally why. What major talk show host in the country, I'm just being honest with you, I'm just answering all your questions, with a national audience, we're talking millions of people who listen to the show, either via streaming or on podcast, or not just here in Boston, but across the whole country. And frankly, we got people who listen across the world, internationally. Fox won't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. They won't have me on. This should be the biggest story in the country. This should be one of the biggest stories in the world. Because you have to understand, Corporate media is controlled opposition. They want to pretend that they're fighting the Democrats or whatever. They're just interested in lining their pockets. That's all it is. It's all one giant money-making machine. And so that's why the Kuhner man, you want to know why the Kuhner man's not on Fox? And I'm not complaining. I don't care to be on Fox. But I'm just telling you, I'm not for sale. I follow the truth wherever it leads, because ultimately I am a patriot first. And I have to look at myself in the mirror. And I'm not selling my soul. Period. Full stop, as my grandfather would say. 617-266-6868. Joe in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
How
Joe.
are you today?
Very good. How are you, Joe?
This is unbelievable. I heard you say that at the end of the show yesterday, and I was watching on TV, radio, the newspapers, nothing. And I'm saying, when are we going to hear about this? I want to say a couple of things. One, I'm thanking God for helping us. That's the only way we could get through this. That's the only way Trump is still alive, and he is protecting us. He knew this was the end of our country. I thought voting was just bad by way of the mail-in ballots and the machines. Didn't realize how bad it was. This is absolutely insane. You know, I expect this from Venezuela, and that's what the CIA had done. They was doing this down in South America for years and years and years, and they just brought it up here.
Oh, that's an excellent point, Joe. Honestly, that's an excellent point. And, you know, I just go back to Antonio Gracias, you know, basically Elon's point man on this issue on Social Security and the Social Security Administration and these Social Security numbers, and they were given to illegals. And so he says, look, why? You know, he said, we start to ask ourselves, well, why? Why let in all these illegals deliberately? Why give them all fraudulent Social Security numbers of Americans who on paper are still alive, even though they're 140, 150, 160 years old? And then we're like, okay, and they're giving them all of these benefits illegally. All this is illegal. So they're getting all this Social Security and EBT and welfare and Medicaid and Medicare and food stamps and tax credits and literally checks of $10, $12, $14,000, free housing. Everything is free. And they're like, but why? Maximum benefits, maximum inclusion, no limit for any of these illegals. And one of them said, let's look up the voting. Are they registered to vote? Is that what this is? Give them everything free so they'll vote for you. And they go, oh my God, we found 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. They were all registered to vote. And then we said, well, okay, but did they actually vote? So we pulled their voting their voting registration records. And they're voting by the millions. I mean, Joe, after a while, I don't know what to say. And you're right. That's exactly what the CIA was doing to overthrow governments in third world countries for the last 50, 60 years. And the deep state in collusion with Biden. And they said, that's how we have to stop Donald Trump. Well, how do you do it in other countries? Well, you let people pour in and then you just, have them vote illegally. Swamp the polls with illegals. And what they did to other countries, they now are doing here. And look, I said this yesterday, Joe, and I really mean it. I hope Elon Musk is watching his back. I hope Elon understands now that he has put himself in grave danger through his courage and his bravery. And remember, both he and Gracias both admitted, they said, we couldn't have done this on our own. There were whistleblowers within the Social Security Administration, within the system, who said, you really want to know what's really going on? Here. And they gave him all this information. And they told both Musk and Gracias, please don't mention our names. By the way, many of you are messaging, texting, emailing the Kuhner man saying, Jeff, today's April Fool's Day. Yes. Why aren't you there aren't any spoofs? You're not doing an April Fool's Day joke? Well, to be brutally honest with all of you, I was thinking of coming in, having Mike play Spanish music, and then me come on after about 2 minutes and say George Soros has bought us up and we're being turned into a Spanish-only station. And then pretend like management is kicking me out of the studio. And then, Mike was cracking up and he was like, this is going to be hilarious. And I said, I don't know, Mike. This is such an important show today. We're talking about such important issues. It doesn't lend itself to an April Fool's Day joke. Plus, people may turn the dial. People are going to swamp management with phone calls. Why is Kuhner being taken off the air? Why you guys have been bought off? And then management will come cracking down on me. What are you doing, Kuhner? We got enough to do all day. We don't need to deal with people calling in. So I decided to call off the April Fool's joke. But happy April Fool's Day to everybody, really. I'm going to have some fun with my kids today. I haven't quite, exactly thought what I'm going to do, but I'm going to pull an April Fool's prank on them. No question about it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick. I mentioned about Elon Musk. I said, please watch your back, Elon. Well, he's not backing down. In fact, listen to this. You got to love the guy. You really got to love the guy. He's like Trump in many ways. He's got the heart of a lion. So, after now he exposed all of this voter fraud, proved it beyond the shadow of a doubt. He then took questions during a town hall, that same town hall in Green Bay. And one individual, listen to this, in the crowd said, hey, has Doge uncovered, any connection of all these funds, all this money sloshing around to people Mad Maxine Waters, or now Senator Adam Piece of Schiff through USAID? In other words, are you going to look into how these politicians have gotten fabulously wealthy on a $200,000 a year salary? Well, this is what Elon said. Elon said, yes, he and Doge are definitely going to investigate this nexus of all this money and how is it ending up in the pockets of politicians. And he said, look, this is what our initial findings. It's still initial, preliminary, but he said, no, let me tell you how the system works. He says what happens is the government sends the money overseas, i.e. through USAID. Then the money flows to these non-governmental organizations, these NGOs. He goes, that's where the racket is. And he says, but they're smart about it. Because these NGOs, I'm telling you, it's just like Eastern Europe. It's exactly like Eastern Europe. They'll put a family member, say, I don't know, a son, a daughter, a niece, a nephew, a first cousin, the wife even, or the husband, whatever. Have them run the NGO. And he says, so the money then goes to the NGO, and he says then the funds end up coming back to the United States directly into the pockets of these lawmakers. And this is, I'm going to quote him now. He goes, it's a circuitous route. Quote, it doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of. How do they become rich? Now, the one he says he really wants to focus on is Nancy Pelosi. He said there's no doubt about it. All of this insider trading, her son, family members, they're on all of these boards, all of these NGOs, sort of like Hunter Biden at Burisma. and $200,000 a year. She is worth, listen to this, $285 million. $285 million on a $200,000 a year salary. And he says we're following the money. And I got to tell you, when I visit my family members back in the old country, as they say, in Croatia. And this was 2010, 15 years ago, the last time I was there. And this is exactly how they laid it out there. They go, the president just enriched himself, or the prime minister has enriched himself, or whatever. And I'm like, well, but they just take the money directly. They go, no, if you take the money directly, it's too easy. You get caught. No, what they do is they set up an NGO. And then they put one of their family members, a daughter, a nephew, a niece, whatever, a son, whoever. And they are on the board of the NGO. So you send the money to the NGO. And then the NGO, sends it back to the prime minister or to the president, but through the family member. The family member gets the money. They take the money. They steal the money. They embezzle the money. And of course, they get a cut for themselves. But most of it goes to the president or to the prime minister or the minister of defense or whatever it is, or the head of the parliament or whatever. And so they set up shell companies or NGOs or front organizations. But they never go directly. The payment never goes directly to them. It's always through, as Elon put it, a circuitous route. That's the way you want to do it. So when I saw the whole Hunter Biden scandal, I'm like, my God, this is it's straight out of a playbook out of Eastern Europe. So Elon's going to follow the money. And I'm telling you, he's going to uncover. He's going to crack this thing wide open. So maybe the media will follow that scandal. I don't know. Maybe. Because I can tell you this. Pelosi is crooked as crooked can be. And it's not just her. Almost every member of Congress is on the take. The only question is, how much are they stealing? Not if they're stealing. How much are they stealing? John in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
We need to change your name from the bulldozer to the surgeon because you are able to open up and surgically expose the cancer that is in America.
Thank you, John.
I want to make a statement. Then my second thing is a question. First, doesn't this remind you of Braveheart when the politicians turned their backs on William Wallace because they were offered or promised land and money in return of their betrayal?
Yes. History repeats itself.
The rhinos, that's why the Republicans, we keep hearing that. Where are the Republicans? Where are the Republicans? They've been promised. And they've been promised for years. And they're afraid. They're walking a balance beam right now. They're terrified of the Democrat Party if they don't toe their line, but they're also terrified of us because of what is going to be exposed.
John, magnificent point, and the historical analogy is brilliant. Okay, let's go right back to John in Plymouth. John, please pick up where you left off.
So, anyways, my question is, we know how evil Bill Gates is, George Soros, Anthony Fauci. We know what an economic terrorist Soros is. He's already done it with countries like Greece. Why? There's countries he's not even allowed in. Same with Gates. Why are these men not being arrested? Why are we still letting them manipulate our system?
John, it's a lack of courage. I think you really hit the nail on the head with your analogy of the movie Braveheart, which actually is true. A lot of it is historically accurate. And how William Wallace, in many ways like Trump, a patriot who wants to save Scotland on behalf of the peasants, on behalf of the people, and create a truly independent, free nation. And he's constantly being sabotaged, betrayed, stabbed in the back by the political elites at the time, the aristocrats, the lords, the Scottish lords. And they were always being bribed. And it's because they were so greedy and so corrupt, they were able to constantly get away with it and undermine William Wallace. And I think, you're asking the $64,000 question. George Soros is clearly a national security threat. Bill Gates is clearly a national security threat. Klaus Schwab is clearly a threat to the national security of the United States. And all three men, I could go on, but let's just take these three men, have openly said they want to bring America to its knees. In fact, you can look it up. George Soros said, quote, "I want to sink America like a ship. I want the system to completely collapse so we can create a socialist revolution in America." I mean, if that's not subversion and treason, if that's not sedition, I don't know what is. And not only is he allowed to come and go, and he's mostly in London. He's got multiple passports in multiple countries. But he comes to New York. He stays in New York. His son is based in New York. Hell, his son now is about to marry Huma Abedin, who is, very close to Hillary Clinton. So, and his son is now taking over the empire, the Soros empire. And he hobnobs with Obama, with Biden, with Kamala, with Gavin Newsom, with the leaders, the upper echelon of the Democratic Party. They love him. They kiss his ring. And again, John, lack of courage, lack of bravery, lack of intestinal fortitude. It really comes down to that. And look, John, let's be honest. You've got Trump. I'm talking now just about guts, character, real guts, real character. Trump, Elon, J.D. Vance, Tom Homan. John, I'm drawing a blank after this. I'm not talking about Congress. We've got Anna Paulina Luna, and we did have Matt Gaetz. He's now gone, but Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there's some wonderful, really good patriots in Congress. I'm talking about in the Trump administration. People that you say, you know what? They're going to go to the wall. They'll risk it all if they have to fight and save this country. I can only give you four names. Trump, his vice president, Elon, and Homan seems to be a really tough guy. I mean, Homan is on the streets and he's rounding them up now. Okay? He's rounding them up MS-13. He's rounding up Tren de Aragua. I mean, he's got a target on his head. But honestly, if I'm missing someone, please tell me. But outside of that, I don't see warriors there. And in Congress, forget about it. Forget about it. I mean, you go to war with Mike Johnson and John Thune. I almost feel sorry for you. That's why he's allowed to walk around. That's why Soros is still a free man. I'll tell you this. All we got to do is arrest him and extradite him to Hungary. That's it. If we don't have the balls to put him behind bars, trust me, the Hungarians are itching to put him behind bars. They'll do it for us. John in Dunstable. John, I hate to do this to you. I've got 1 minute left. The floor is yours. Go.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, Homeland Security shouldn't be going after the illegals, Jeff, because they were let in by the President of the United States for this fraud. They should go after them, but not for the fraud. They should be going after the departments that are giving them all the money. Secondly, Jeff, Pelosi, Pocahontas with all their billions of dollars. If Pam Bondi and Kash Patel do not do indictments really soon, it's over, Jeff. and it's going to come down to the Second Amendment. That's what's going to happen, Jeff.
John, here's my prediction. If Pam Bondi, it's time for her to fish or cut bait.